Okay, well, good evening, vinyl community. We're doing another vinyl tag for 2022. This one's like, I think, the fourth one of these I've done. Uh, this one's, yeah, I'm at a different house tonight, and like half my vinyl's here, half's at the other house. So this is going to be split into two parts, but I want to at least get started because some of my picks are here, and let me just jump right into it. So, favorite album purchased in 2021. I briefly was a member of Amazon's record club, and they sent me this album. It's a double collection of number ones by Diana Ross and the Supremes. My favorite album this year, man. I've played that sucker to death. There are just so many great songs on there. It sounds wonderful. I ended up not sticking with their record club, but this one was, I wouldn't have picked this album. But yeah, this has been my favorite album of the past year. It's the one I've listened to the most. Album by the first person you saw live. This is Extraterrestrial. Let me get that light. This is Extraterrestrial. Oh, great, that made it worse. This is Extraterrestrial Live by Blue Oyster Cult, the first rock concert I ever went to. Blue Oyster Cult with Foghat opening up. This double album is the same tour that I saw. I'd really like to get a better copy. This one's pretty banged up and scratched and has some skips in it, so I am looking for a better copy of that album. But yeah, that's the first concert I went to when I was 13 years old. Album by a duo. This isn't really a duo, but I think it's going to count. This is an album that a lot of you have probably seen around. This is basically recordings from the Monterey Pop Festival. Side 1 is Hendrix. Side 2 is Otis Redding. This album came out like in the 70s or something. You see it around. I managed to get a good cheap copy of it. I wasn't that thrilled with the Hendrix part. Loved the Otis Redding part. Surprise. I just couldn't get into Hendrix's set, but I really like the Otis Redding. So I'm going to skip around quite a bit. A album with no writing on the cover. Original European pressings of metal had nothing but this very abstract artwork. I've mentioned this album on other vinyl tags because it's my favorite Floyd album. That's close to being one of my all-time favorite albums. The US version did have Pink Floyd metal up here. But Europeans, you only see the name on the spine. So an album with no writing on it. A colored vinyl pressing. This is I am not a huge fan of colored vinyl. I've just had a lot of them that didn't play very well, that there was noise, there were skips. It's happened a lot. Here's a good example. I've bought this album twice. This is Hell On by Nico Case. This is actually not my colored pressing because I had to hunt down a non-colored pressing because my colored pressing wouldn't play very well. This is a great album. It sounds absolutely wonderful, and I liked it enough that I was just not happy with a colored pressing that didn't sound very good, so I hunted down a non-colored pressing. But I certainly have had some colored vinyl that sounds fine, but I've had a few that do not. A best of album. You see this album everywhere. It's always dirt cheap. This is, I'm sorry, it's backwards on this camera. This is the Association's greatest hits. A lot of this stuff you've heard a million times. Along Comes Mary, Windy. That's my least favorite song on this album. This is a great record. I mean, it's just, man, every track is really good on this album. You can find it everywhere. You find it in garage sales, dirt cheap. But it's great. Grab a copy and enjoy it. Okay, next question. An album with the price sticker on the jacket. I mean, I get a lot of records with still have price tags on them. This one I managed to keep the shrink and the hype sticker and everything on it. The band is called the Clientele. They're I wish they were better known, man. They're sort of kind of a jangle pop, very melodic, sort of like maybe like the Smiths, but just beautiful melodic pop music. I believe they're from the UK. They're definitely from the UK. But anyway, still has a price tag and a hype sticker on it. A punk or new wave album. I do have some punk, but I'm more of a new wave guy. This is the album. I adore this album. It's the album Crush by Orchestral Maneuvers in the Dark. I have a lot of new wave in my collection. Like Echo and the Bunnymen's, probably one of my all-time favorite bands. But I don't have my Echo albums here tonight. So, but this is a wonderful album. And just real quickly, I've noticed that a lot of music from this period sounds terrible on compact discs. They got put out on CD. They're an early pressings from the CD era, which don't sound very good. Then when I finally heard this album, an album I was very familiar with, actually on vinyl for the first time, I was amazed at how great it sounded, how good the production was. There was like all this bass that was inaudible on the CD. So I kind of feel that a lot of albums from this period didn't get treated very well in the CD era. By the time decent sounding remasters came out in the 90s, this music was kind of like old news, and a lot of it just kind of got overlooked in the CD era. So this is an example of a new wave album that if you can find an original, they will just kick the snot out of a CD pressing, from what I've heard. This is a wonderful sounding album. You can find an OG copy of it. A jazz record. I could stay here all night, but I'm going to pick one that's maybe not so well known that I absolutely love. This is The Bright, the Blue, and the Beautiful by Ahmad Jamal. This is sort of a strange album from kind of the early 60s. There's like kind of choruses singing along with Jamal on the piano. So there's kind of like a vocal ensemble that kind of backs it up. So it's sort of an odd album, but it's just wonderful. I bought 2 copies of this because this one skipped, and I was like, I want a better copy of this album. So yeah, I bought 2 copies of this album because it's so damn good. I wanted a good, clean copy of it. But yeah, I've noticed that for some reason, a lot of jazz is notoriously really expensive. But for some reason, I've noticed a lot of Ahmad Jamal. I see his stuff around a lot, and a lot of it's pretty affordable. I don't quite know why that is, because I think he's an amazing piano player. And I heard that Miles Davis considered him one of the finest jazz pianists around. Too bad they never actually played together. A motion picture soundtrack. This is the more recent Blade Runner movie, soundtrack by Hans Zimmer. Normally I'm not that crazy about Hans Zimmer stuff, but I love this soundtrack, and he also pays homage to the original Vangelis soundtrack from the first Blade Runner film. So this is a great soundtrack. It sounds really it's just really worth having it on vinyl because it just sounds amazing. So that's part 1 of this video. I'll do part 2 back at my apartment where I have some other records that I want to show you guys. Okay, and before I finish part 1 of this video, I realized that there's one album I have to include. The question is, include a live album. And I'm not going to say that this is the greatest live album of all time, but it is probably my favorite live album of all time. Get ready, folks. Unleashed in the East, Judas Priest. It doesn't get any better than this, folks. So, I don't know how much of a heavy metal guy I am, but I do love early Judas Priest up until about the mid 80s. Man, you just can't get any better than Judas Priest, man. Priest rules! Okay, so as promised, here's part 2. Change locations, and I want to address a few things from the first half of the video. So I know on the topic of colored vinyl, I didn't have a colored that I could show you, and here's a good example of a really a good colored vinyl pressing. This is Echo and the Bunnymen, Flowers. This is a later Bunnymen album. It's from 2001. It was pressed. This is very recent. This just was released on vinyl only recently. It's on white vinyl. Sounds magnificent. It is, Flowers is the last, what was the last truly great Bunnymen album. So they had a comeback in the 90s, put out a string of 3 just fantastic albums, and this is the last. There's 3 just now reissued. The white vinyl pressing sounds good, but as I mentioned, I've had bad luck with color. Here's another color pressing, Buzzcocks, a different kind of tension, fantastic record. I was so happy to get it. Loved, thought the colored yellow vinyl was just so cool. Skips, can't fix the skip. I bought a second copy of it. Such a good album. It was worth having a good copy of it. I was kind of cheated on duos. So here is a duo album. This is Mike Bloomfield and Al Cooper, recorded at Fillmore, 1968. And I want to remind you, never give up on the cheap bins. This was, for some reason, this was in the bin. It was $1. And it is a fantastic OG copy. Look at that. This is like one of those old Columbia pressings. It's got the album, the original sleeve and everything. Well, it's probably not the original because this looks like it's from the 70s. But, yeah, man, never give up on those cutout bins. You never know what could be hiding in there. And here's another album by another duo. So, I've also picked up on the fact that there's different vinyl tags going on right now, and I seem to be doing the Walker list that's going around, and I know that I saw another video of a different list, so here are some of the questions I didn't get to last night. Concept album. This topic's come up on other vinyl tags, and I'm going to give the same answer I gave last time. You Can't Use My Phone by Erykah Badu. This is a concept album. It's the theme on this album is all the songs on it are about these things and what they're doing to us. Phones. Every song is about phones, alienation caused by phones. Can't use my phone. Phone down. You used to call me. I'll call you back. An amazing album. Erykah just gets better with every album, in my opinion. And this is just an absolute masterpiece. Album in the Shrink, an unopened record. So thanks to COVID, I couldn't get out much and do a whole lot over the holidays, but I did manage to make one trip out to some record stores. And I got a haul of new vinyl. One that I haven't had a chance to listen to yet is this. This is a triple album, Return to Forever Returns. It's a live performance. This is 4 LPs. Recent, when was this recorded? 2008 was when it was released. So yeah, Return to Forever, back on stage. I don't know if this is the entirely original lineup, but this is going to sound great. And I probably don't have to remind you that we lost Chick Corea last year. So I was really happy to see this, and I'm looking forward to listening to it. An artist you discovered in 2021, I'm going to mention two. This is someone who I seriously had never heard of before. Her name's Halsey. This was highly recommended by someone else in the vinyl community. I streamed it first, and I've been wanting to get it on vinyl. The artist is Halsey. If I can't have love, I want power, or something like that. Wait a minute. If I can't have love, I want power. She's sort of a pop artist, but she collaborated with Trent Reznor on this album, so it's sort of like Ariana Grande meets Nine Inch Nails, but it's a tremendous album. The collaboration really works, and I've made it a New Year's resolution that I'm going to listen to more female artists in 2022. The other artist who I was aware of, but I finally got some of their stuff, their first album and this new album that came out in 2021, Wolf Alice. This is an amazing album. This was on a lot of people's top list of albums for the year. Didn't disappoint. They've put out two albums, both great. Wolf Alice. So, an album from a different continent. I don't really have much from other continents except for records that are imports. And a great example is the German prog proto-metal band from the 70s that they're still active, Eloy. I cannot find their stuff in the States. Every time I've tried to hunt down Eloy, I have to order it from Germany. They're a German band. I think some of their stuff is available on CD in the States, but every time I've tried to get vinyl, I've had to go overseas, and I do love me some Eloy. Oh, and they're on the Harvest label, the preferred label for prog nerds. So, Eloy. An album with a sporting theme. Well, so this is sort of a demented game of croquet going on here. This is a very infamous album cover, very famous album. Nursery Crime by Genesis, commonly kind of regarded as the first great album from the Peter Gabriel era. And they are having a really demented croquet game here. It's a very famous album cover, but not as famous as the next album cover. An album with at least 8 people on the jacket. Enough said. A 7-inch single. I don't know if this is actually a 7-inch or not. I don't really collect singles, but this is only available as this, what I assume is a 7-inch single. It's 4 songs. The project's called Planet England. It's Robin Hitchcock and Andy Partridge. It's wonderful. As far as I know, this is all they've put out, is this little album of 4 pop psychedelic gems by Robin Hitchcock and Andy Partridge of XTC. Oh, I skipped one. A box set. Well, you are in luck. Folks, get this before it goes out of print. This came out around October of last year. Of course, it's Chevrolet Toll Benefit. They've put out these box sets. They usually go out of print pretty quick, and the price just goes through the roof. This is the only one of these I've ever been able to get, is the one for Benefit. I could care less about the price. I could care less. But this is a real bargain. Not only do you get a Steve Wilson remix, and he just does an amazing job with these prog albums, especially Jethro Tull. But you get a lot on this set. A DVD of a concert from 1970, live at Tanglewood, another live concert from Chicago, DVD that contains the Steve Milson remix and the original mix, and a disc of singles, including both mono and stereo versions of the singles, and other mixes as well. I lost track of how many versions of Witch's Promise is on this box set. So again, these get snatched up pretty quick, and then they go out of print. This is CD, obviously, but my God, this is a bargain. If you find this box set, this is my favorite period of Tull, the early period, just prior to Aqualung, including Aqualung. So, man, this was an absolute deal. Last question, an album from 1982, and just so happens what I think is one of the greatest albums of all time did come out in 1982. I am talking about Imperial Bedroom, Elvis Costello and the Attractions. Can't say enough great stuff. Produced by Jeff Emmerich, the recording engineer that worked with the Beatles on Sgt. Pepper's and other albums. This is just a one. It's got this crazy lyric sheet with all the lyrics kind of ran together. But if you've never heard Imperial Bedroom, man, are you in for a treat. It's sort of I didn't like it when I first heard it. I just didn't think it was maybe a little too subtle. I came to this one a little bit later. I was familiar with some of the other earlier albums by Elvis, and this one just slowly grew on me. And commercially, it was a flop when it came out. The critics liked it. It's now some regarded as his best album. I believe Elvis regards it as his best album. And my heart just skipped a beat when I found a promo copy for $10 at Easy Street Records in Seattle. Thank you very much, Easy Street. I miss Easy Street. I used to live in Seattle. I do miss that store. It's a great record store. Check it out if you're ever visiting Seattle. So that's it. That's what I got for my 2022 vinyl tag. Take care, vinyl community. Have a good 2022. Happy New Year's.